Good evening and welcome to SVG-TV News for Monday, September 27th, 2021. I am Rochelle Batiste with the details. St. Vincent and the Grenadines today recorded its 18th COVID-19 death, which is the 6th for the month. The latest victim is a 69-year-old female who died of COVID-19 pneumonia. A release from the National Emergency Management Organization, NEMO, said the patient, who had multiple underlying conditions, was unvaccinated, tested positive for COVID-19 on September 22nd, 2021, and was admitted to the Argyle Isolation Facility. NEMO said there are currently 19 patients admitted for COVID-19 at the Argyle Isolation Facility. 18 are unvaccinated and 1 patient is partially vaccinated. 11 patients have also been admitted to the COVID-19 ward at the Milton Cater Memorial Hospital. 10 are said to be unvaccinated, and the vaccination status of 1 patient is awaiting confirmation. Meanwhile, 21 new COVID-19 positive cases were reported from 191 samples processed on Saturday, September 25th, resulting in a positivity rate of 11%. NEMO said 1 new case was detected on entry screening from Karakou and another was detected on exit screen. All other cases or contacts of known positive cases and persons seeking care. 10 rapid antigen positive results were also reported for Saturday, September 25th. 7 new recoveries were noted over the reporting period. 953 cases are currently active and 18 persons with COVID-19 have died. 3,359 cases of COVID-19 and 2,388 recoveries have been recorded in SVG since March 2020. NEMO said in view of the confirmed presence of the Delta, Mu and Gamma variants in the community and a significant increase in the number of new infections, transmission, severe COVID-19 disease and deaths, strict enforcement and compliance with all protocols and recommendations by everyone is strongly recommended. It further noted that the correct and consistent use of masks, avoidance of crowds, physical distancing, proper hand sanitizing and immunization with available vaccines have all been proven to significantly reduce the risk of being infected, getting sick and or dying from the COVID-19 virus. Prime Minister Dr. Gonsalves on radio yesterday announced that members of boards of statutory corporations and other state-owned entities have a choice to get vaccinated by October 15th or demit their offices. The Prime Minister said he penned a memorandum to the chairperson of all boards and statutory entities outlining what needs to be done.
I drafted a letter, a memorandum, to the chairperson and members of the boards of all statutory enterprises and private and state-owned companies and public enterprises generally, that they've also been given a choice to be vaccinated by the 15th of October or demit their offices, so that, to take their first vaccine by then, if they haven't taken it yet. I know many of them have. The cabinet, as you know, from the very beginning, we are all vaccinated in the cabinet. And I don't see how we could have the cabinet vaccinated and we are asking frontline workers, for instance, in the port and the airports, to be vaccinated. And then the people who are running these statutory enterprises or public companies not to be vaccinated.
The Prime Minister also noted that as part of the new rules, the Speaker of the House of Assembly is asking that persons entering the chambers declare their vaccination status.
And the leader of the opposition said that they're not submitting any because it's not anybody's business as to who's to know the status of individuals. The individual rights position now. So she's now saying that if you don't declare your status, she will consider that you're unvaccinated. and there are special rules from where you will speak and so on and so forth, and how you have to double mask and when you're not speaking and the like. So she has sent out some rules in that regard. We can't pretend as though we are living in normal time.
On the Public Health Amendment Act 2021, which will require all frontline workers to take the vaccine, PM Gonsalves said it will come into effect in about a month's time, with the final draft to be taken before Cabinet on Wednesday.
And we are going through the consultation process now, and hopefully by Wednesday we will approve the regulations finally, which we had put out in draft form. I know there was a consultation with the Nurses Association. There was supposed to have been a consultation on Friday. I believe it took place with the Public Service Union. And other memoranda had been submitted, and the technical people have taken all these things into account. I had a discussion on Thursday afternoon. I'm having one tomorrow again with the technical persons, the draftspersons, the people in health, the legal draftspersons and the like, and to take the final draft to the Cabinet, and hopefully before the end of this week get it published in the Gazette, and within 1 month after it will become operational.
And former Prime Minister Sir James Mitchell is proposing that the government allocates 1 million EC dollars in a bid to encourage more persons to get vaccinated. His suggestion will see persons going to a restaurant of their choice with a $50 food voucher.
And offer an opportunity for 20,000 Vincentians to get vaccinated who may be reluctant. The government should allocate a fund of 1 million East Caribbean dollars to be administered by the Hotel Association to all the hotels and restaurants to give a voucher for $50 to any person on getting their first vaccine. Don't tell me the money can't be found. All you need to do is prepare the project and get it to the relevant funding agencies, the World Bank, the IMF.
Sir James said that the monies can be sourced locally to fund the initiative, noting that SVG has to get back to normalcy sooner rather than later.
There are individuals in Musty who could come up with $1 million. They wouldn't want their names to be exposed, and they could, of course, hand it to the Musty company. But I am sure there are individuals over there who will want to make sure that the tourist industry and help St. Vincent get out of this mess. So that is one suggestion I make. $1 million, and then work out the modalities of how it will be distributed. You get your first job, and you have a certified piece of paper in your hand, and you collect your voucher to go to a hotel or restaurant of your choice and have a meal for $50. It could be tried, and it might be nonsense. Some might call it bribery, but we're not foreign to bribery here in this country.
Making a further plea for all Vincentians to get vaccinated, Sir James said as a former leader of the country, he has an obligation to encourage everyone to take the jab.
Indeed, I beg, I ask intentions, go for it. Don't worry with those who want to say, I agree with it, but not mandated. Any politician who talks about the word mandated, he does not understand the problems of communication with our people. If you say, I am for vaccination, but I am not for mandatory vaccination, the word mandatory drops, and people will label you and say you are against vaccination. You got to be on board on all counts. I regret to say that everybody is entitled to their view, but as a scientist, as a person who has spent a lot of time, 50 years of my life, helping and looking after the people of St. Vincent, if you think you owe me one, the one thing I say that Vincentians owe me is to get vaccinated.
Speaking on mandatory vaccination for frontline workers, Sir James said he supports anything that will get 100% of the population vaccinated.
I have not discussed the party position with anyone. I have suggested that the party make an unambiguous statement that it wants 90% of the people vaccinated. Drop the word mandated, and that is my advice to the party. We are all in this together. This is not a political issue, and if the party is not clear, we will lose out in the long run. The Prime Minister is not doing anything that the rest of the world not doing. You look at what Macron is doing, you look at what Canada is doing, etc. we have to do all we can to get people vaccinated and convince them. Spend our energies convincing people to get vaccinated. Any other thing, any other statement from me is inadequate.
And Prime Minister Dr. Gonsalves said he agrees with Sir James' recommendation of the $50 meal voucher as an incentive to get more persons to take the jab. He said he will try it and hope it works.
The proposal might support of $1 million for persons who want to $50 vouchers. If the Hotel Association thinks that it will work, I wouldn't want to impose it on them. So James has put it out. And I notice how he has put it. He says, well, find out from the Hotel Association, the Chamber of Industry and Commerce, and how they feel about that. Because remember, we had earlier discussed a series of incentives. And then on the basis of what happened in other countries, where apparently the incentives didn't work, because they had incentives in Antigua, lottos and all kind of other things, but they didn't work. So James' suggestion may work.
In other news, the government and people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines will be receiving some much-needed support in their efforts to recover from the far-reaching effects of the volcanic eruptions which rocked the island in early April. The Spanish Agency for International Development Cooperation, the AECID, has provided $416,204 to the government through a partnership with UNDP Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean to strengthen recovery efforts in the country. The volcanic eruptions, which displaced over 20,000 people, worsened the already fragile socio-economic state caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. Speaking on the response efforts and support provided to promote recovery, Spanish Ambassador to Trinidad and Tobago, Fernando Nogales, noted in a news release that the program will be key to get life back into the areas affected by the eruptions. The release stated that generous AECID cash injection is part of the agency's commitment to combat poverty and promote sustainable human development and will be employed to accelerate the efforts of the UNDP response and recovery program, which has been developed in consultation with national institutions, recovery partners, and the UNDP team on the ground here in SVG. The proposed program is said to be consistent with the national priorities of the government, noting the positive impact such a measure would have in terms of protecting health of residents and restoration of livelihoods. The project will also assist the communities and government in cleaning ash, debris, bricks, cement, rubble, and vegetation from the destroyed areas, marketplaces, homes, and streets to pave the way to rebuilding these areas and allowing safe access to communities and businesses. It will also provide short-term financial support to persons who have previously lost their jobs to COVID-19, in addition to being impacted by the volcanic eruption. The UNDP said the volcanic eruption, like previous others, has illustrated a disproportionate impact on women and girls. Therefore, all of the activities executed under the AECID-supported UNDP response and recovery plan will address the differential needs of women, men, girls, and boys and ensure equitable, gender-inclusive distribution of benefits and resources while also focusing on preventing the spread of COVID-19. Ambassador Peter Lan is Taiwan's new ambassador to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Ambassador Lan takes over from former Ambassador Calvin Ho. The ambassador has been in SVG for almost a month now and speaks to SVG-TV News on his impressions of the island and some of his short and long-term plans to help further deepen bilateral relations with SVG. Larissa Pugsley-Kidd tells us more in this report.
My first exposure to the local culture was two songs of Skinny Fabulous, which was introduced by our friend. Immediately I found it's a very unique one because I was under the impression that all the Caribbeans are only listening to reggae. And then I'm trying to get some flavor of the local food. I've tried breadfruit already and the fried barracuda. I'm trying to get the jackfish and blackfish next.
The newly accredited resident ambassador of the Republic of China, Taiwan to SVG, Peter Lan, is still settling in and learning more about the island, its peoples and culture. Ambassador Lan, who is not a stranger to small islands, has an extensive career in the sciences. He also has a vast experience in diplomacy, as he has held the post of Deputy Director General of the Department of East Asian and Pacific Affairs within the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and representative of the Taipei Economic and Trade Office in Indonesia.
It was because of my passion to pursue traveling and making new friends that brought me to the foreign service. So I do have quite a unique background in terms of diplomats.
Ambassador Lan's predecessor, former Ambassador Calvin Ho, left the state last month. Admitting that he has big shoes to fill, Ambassador Lan said he is looking forward to deepening ties with St. Vincent and the Grenadines and ROC Taiwan, noting that this year marks 40 years of formal relations and diplomatic ties between the two countries.
I think the bilateral cooperation between Taiwan and St. Vincent and the Grenadines are very solid and comprehensive. I hope that I can carry on the torch by working hard, by communicating with all aspects of the St. Vincent society, hopefully continue the excellent works of all my predecessors.
On September 13, Ambassador Lan presented his letters of credence to Governor General Her Excellency Dame Susan Duggan and Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves. In his first official event as ambassador of the ROC Taiwan to SVG on September 14, Ambassador Lan handed over a grant of US $1.2 million to the government of SVG.
To purchase heavy equipment to assist and facilitate in removing all the debris and lahars. So hopefully we will continue on that solid background on the bilateral project.
Ambassador Lan said his government will continue to play a major role in the rebuilding and recovery of SVG, bearing in mind that the island is still dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic and recovering from the volcanic eruption.
We also have other projects that we are currently discussing with either the government here or the NGOs. We have a Taiwanese NGO, there's a container of supplies coming in, mostly fabrics. They are here to be waited to be distributed out.
The newly accredited ROC Taiwan ambassador said that while he is not sure when his tenure will end, he hopes to do his best to improve relations with the ROC Taiwan and SVG, noting that he is open to suggestions from the people of SVG.
We welcome any kind of information regarding to how to improve even better our existing friendship. I think this is basically our mission.
For SVG-TV News, Larissa Pugsley-Kidd.
In his address at the 76th session of the United Nations General Assembly on Saturday, Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves called for all ancient and long-standing political quarrels to come to an end in these perilous times facing humanity.
At the top of the list must undoubtedly include the refusal of Israel and its international backers to come to terms with the requisite of an independent Palestine and a secure Israel in accord with repeated resolutions of this august body. And similarly, the refusal of the United States of America to dismantle the internationally unlawful and crippling economic blockade of Cuba and to bring to an end the unjust, harsh, unilateral economic and financial sanctions against Venezuela and to a lesser extent, Nicaragua.
PM Gonsalves joined other leaders to support Taiwan's inclusion in the United Nations system, noting that it is high time that the UN and its agencies cease the exclusion of Taiwan from meaningful participation.
Surely the world will benefit from Taiwan's inclusion in global bodies such as the World Health Assembly, the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, the International Civil Aviation Organization, and Interpol. Concerted multilateral cooperation on global matters such as health, climate change, civil aviation, crime, and so forth requires all hands on deck, metaphorically speaking. Taiwan is a relatively small but illegitimate political expression of the magnificent Chinese civilization. It has been an impressive economic miracle. It is a thriving democracy, and it has a right to ask for meaningful inclusion in the relevant global institutions. New times demand fresh solutions.
At the assembly, almost all of diplomatic allies of Taiwan worldwide spoke on behalf of Taiwan inclusion in the UN Assembly. The 76th session of the United Nations General Assembly convened at the UN headquarters in New York on September 14th, where the general debate held from September 21st to the 27th. The theme for this year's UN General Assembly and general debate was Building Resilience Through Hope to Recover from COVID-19, Rebuild Sustainably, Respond to the Needs of the Planet, Respect the Rights of People, and Revitalize the United Nations. In some police news now, we hear that the police are investigating the circumstances surrounding the death of Donald Neverson, a 41-year-old former businessman of Gonsalves, which occurred about 8:20 p.m. on Saturday, September 25th, in the vicinity of Korea's Lumber Yard in capital Kingston. The police say, according to reports, the deceased had just closed his shop and was on his way home when he was accosted by two masked men with guns who shot him multiple times about his body. He died at the scene of the crime. Neverson's death marks the 28th homicide for 2021. The police are seeking the assistance of members of the public who may have information that can assist with the investigation to call Deputy Commissioner of Police at telephone number 1784-4561-339, the officer in charge of CID at telephone number 1784-4561-810, police controlled at 911, or the officer in charge of the South Central Division, or any police station or officer that you are comfortable with. All information, the police say, will be treated confidentially. And the police have arrested and charged Dexter Pope, a 23-year-old farmer of Gonsalves, with the offense of possession of an unlicensed firearm and ammunitions. The accused man allegedly had in his possession a 9mm pistol without a license issued under the Firearms Act. He was also arrested and charged for having in his possession 2 rounds of .9mm ammunition without a license issued under the said Firearms Act. Both offenses occurred at 10:35 a.m. at Camden Park on Saturday, September 25th. The accused is expected to appear before the Serious Offences Court to answer the charges. The police have also arrested and charged Jason Richards, a 23-year-old painter of Walvaroo, for the offense of possession of an unlicensed firearm and ammunitions. The accused man allegedly had in his possession a 9mm Luger revolver and 5 rounds of a 9mm ammunition without a license issued under the Firearm Act at Camden Park about 10:35 p.m. on Saturday. The accused is also expected to appear before the Serious Offences Court to answer the charge.